Hello, hello. Welcome to the Cash Madam. Today, I will be talking about one of my favorite authors, Brene Brown, and her work on men, women, and worthiness and the gender related to it. She had this very interesting point where she talked about the roles that men and women have that make them feminine and make them masculine. And I'm going to be honest, I have always struggled with the classical definition of what masculinity and femininity are and are considered in today's society. When one, I realized that the color pink is a manufactured female color. Considering 100 years ago, I think the rumor is that they were switched, meaning blue was for girls and pink were for men, or that they were not gendered at all. And it was just a clever marketing tool to turn pink into every woman's color. The other one I came across was reading about the UK Prime Minister Disraeli and his relationship with the Queen, which was not taken very favorably. However, one of his criticisms was that he was a dandy, he was always well dressed, and that he was considered effeminate because he preferred to negotiate rather than go out for outright war. And I find that interesting because in today's society, the ability to be level headed and show emotional restraint and use your critical thinking is now considered a masculine trait. And the emotional outbursts are considered feminine. The crying, the fighting, the just can't control yourself. So ever since then, I started questioning what is considered feminine and what is considered masculine and how society frames that. Interesting. Now, going into the men, I found this surprising because for men, that shows the masculine is emotional control. The only allowed emotions are anger, really. Prioritization of work and status above all things, including relationships. Control of women. I found this one very interesting because I now look back on past relationships where now I realize that when there was a lot of attempts to control me, those also happened to be moments of emotional vulnerability that I did not recognize. So that was interesting. The fourth one was violence. And that I do see a lot now, a lot more now than before. And outward disdain for homosexuality. So it is not enough to be heterosexual, but you must also openly disdain homosexuality. That is also very interesting. And the shame points for men is very simple. It's just one. Do not be perceived as weak in any way. And if you wanted to expand that, that also meant do not be nice and do not show emotions or do not break down. I will talk about one more thing she mentioned about women, in that she feels that women in this case are the holders of the masculine shame, in that she had this experience with a male fan who asked her why she didn't write about men, and she said, well, I'm a woman and most of my work is about women. And he said, well, a lot of the shame holders that he has was the women in his life. Like, they would rather see him die on his white horse than fall from it. And I'll talk about my thoughts about that later. One of her quick points on solutions to this is being honest and vulnerable. The first thing is asking for help. And in asking for help, that gives your weakness a name. You're saying, I am actually weak and I need help. The second thing was boundaries, where she encourages you not to do work you don't want to do. And this one is specifically for men. And I wonder how difficult that might be for men. And then the last thing, also for men, is to own when they have made mistakes and to apologize for it. Because that is a seriously vulnerable making moment, because you could be shamed for owning your mistakes and people can pile on it. But sometimes it also is I'm human and I accept myself, and is a place for creating self-love. So that's my notes for this piece of Brene Brown's Masculinity and Femininity, and how shame arranges itself around genders. Thank you for listening to me. This is the Cash Madame. Have a great rest of your day.